Ask Me Anything by Radical. I'm a survivor of a skydive in which my parachute didn't open. Ask me anything. My name is Brad, and a few years ago I was involved in a freak skydiving incident in which both my main parachute and emergency parachute failed to deploy correctly. I was the passenger in a tandem jump from 15,000 feet and I was falling at 80 km per hour. 50 mph. I sustained neck and spinal injuries and many mental health issues including depression and PTSD as a result. Hopefully my openness can help other people out there experiencing the same thing. Do you consider yourself unlucky because the parachutes didn't open, or lucky because you survived despite that? Great question. I initially thought unlucky because for many years the incident had taken so much away from me. I felt like I had lost everything and it nearly cost me my life because of my mental health issues. It was very much a why me mentality. These days I see it as a very unique gift. To have these new philosophies on life and wisdom is priceless. So now it's more of course me, because I have purpose. How did the mental problems first manifest? You think it was a physical change that resulted from the fall or the mental trauma of dealing with the idea and experience of what happened? Any speculation on how you are alive? Do you remember how you landed, or was your fall broken by trees or something? We half landed in a lake on a golf course and my fall was partly broken by my instructor. I believe he broke his legs and pelvis. That and some sort of divine protection maybe? So did the trailing main reduce your terminal velocity? Or did your instructor do anything to slow your descent, like flying squirrel style? On my third tandem jump, I took a ride on the reserve chute. Having jumped twice before, I knew what it felt like when the main chute deploys. My instructor pulled the chute but we didn't get that jolt. It was kinda like a half a jolt. I said, "That chute didn't deploy, did it?" He said, "No. Hang on." He started cutting things away and we went into free fall again. That's a really weird feeling to start accelerating again so close to the ground. He then pulled the reserve chute and it also got hung up on something. He said, "Oh shit." He fiddled with the chute some more and we started gliding down. The instructor stayed so calm the whole time. We landed and hugged. He had a big gash across his eye from the main chute. We were picked up in a golf cart and I heard my instructor say to the driver, "That's the second time that's happened to me today." We arrive back at the hangar. He throws the chute down, grabs another, and gets right back on the plane to jump again with the rest of my friends. It all happened so fast that you don't really have time to be scared. My instructor say to the driver, "That's the second time that's happened to me today. That's a really good sign that they're not packing their parachutes properly." Yep, I gotta wonder if PP didn't miss the part where the instructor went into the office hangar/break room, beat the absolute hell out of someone, and then picked up another chute and went on his way. Did you and the tandem instructor have a last moment of sorts before impact? Also, seeing you both survive, do you still talk or was there any bond formed there? Oddly enough, there was. In my vlog, linked above, you'll notice I said that before we jumped. He pointed the GoPro at me and asked if I had any last words. Me being a tosser, said hope my parachute opens. My dark sense of humor worked against me, it would seem. As we were falling I asked, "Are we gonna die?" And he just said he didn't know. That's when I really had accepted my fate. I haven't seen or made contact with him since that day. Hey mate, I'm a skydiver from that area and happen to know the tandem master personally. I have dinner with him in a group every few months. Although it's been a while now since I haven't been in the sport for a bit, I can get in contact with him on your behalf if you like and see how he feels about it. I haven't spoken to him too closely regarding the accident because I didn't want to pry too much, but he's recovered well and is still operating as a TM. At the age of 16 I was cleaning a bathroom at a Bullis and this guy was peeing with crutches. I said that must be hard. He said yeah it is. I got injured because my parachute didn't open. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He didn't laugh. It makes me wonder, how often do people survive this sort of thing and how do scientists think it's even possible when people can't even jump off a building without dying? If I'm reading the article right, his chutes did open but they got tangled with each other. So maybe they were providing some resistance but just not enough to make a safe landing? Definitely, terminal velocity is around 200 kph. They hit the ground at 80 kph. The angle of the material you hit plays a big factor too. Ops stated they slid into a river, so likely they hit a bank first. Why didn't your tandem master cut away the mane? I honestly think he tried to. I remember seeing what looked like a knife, but in the moment it just felt like we were shaking all over the place. So it is hard to tell. I haven't seen him since the day, so I can't ask and be certain. How did you two not become best friends? Or at least sit down and share a beer after you were healed and talk about it? You almost died while strapped to another person who almost died. Open a sports bar in Hawaii together or something. I read through the article and it mentions a lawsuit. Are you suing the company, the instructor, or both? I see in your other comments that you'll hope to get in touch with Bill one day. Is the lawsuit part of the reason you haven't reached out yet? Edit. So a lot of people seem to be saying that the chute failing is the company's fault. But from the article it seems like the chute failed because of bad wind. I doubt that can be blamed on the company, although the part about the primary chute cutting away and the backup chute deploying is unclear. I mostly want to know what happened, as I very recently jumped out of a plane with a tandem instructor as well. I'm curious as to ARP's basis for lawsuit if the issue arose from weather, which is what I understood it to be. When you do a tandem you'll be asked to sign an agreement that states any injuries sustained are not the fault of the company etc. I don't think this guy would win a lawsuit. Frankly, I'd be surprised if he filed one at all. It absolutely blows that he was injured, but he voluntarily participated in a risky sport. I suspect any such forms would actually be irrelevant if they didn't take due diligence. Has anything trivial but odd and seemingly unconnected like food or music preferences change after the experience? Interesting question. Not really. Sorry that wasn't too exciting. Let us know if you develop any psychic abilities. Can you walk? Sure can. Amazing. You're a lucky guy. Best of luck in your future. Crazy experience, bro. Did you have flashbacks of your life? Did you and the instructor land flat on your backs or legs first? I didn't have flashback. More like flash present, if that makes sense. I just remember how bad I felt for my family who were watching me and what I was leaving behind. We moved a lot when we made impact, so it's hard to know how we landed exactly. I ended up on top of him. In 2009, I experienced a near-death experience of being ejected from a car at 80 miles an hour. I was 17. A week out of high school. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and when I came to, my brain trauma had caused me to forget most of the prior year. My body is scarred and in constant pain. I have suffered consistent anxiety and mental health issues subsequently, but self-loathing and suicidal tendencies are the most prevailing ones. I cannot learn self-respect or self-love. My mother was the woman who stayed by my side, and my only parent and support net. She passed away at the end of last year from leukemia, and I'm having a hard time rationalizing the point of existence beyond these life experiences. We are all meant to die, and every day I am still greeted with that fear that death will come at any minute and unexpectedly. It makes me want to give up, and I find myself over encumbered with the fear that all is for naught. I don't have many friends. I lock myself away apart from when I work. I'm on several antidepressants, but nothing helps me. How do you cope? What helps to pull you away from cognitive dissonance and self-loathing when you feel yourself regressing into that mindset? I am so sorry for what you are experiencing, and trust me when I say that things can and will get better. I almost ended it all too, and I still see death every time I hit the pillow to sleep. The one thing that keeps me going is that one day things will get better. When you strongly believe that it is a certainty and a guarantee, it will happen. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be in 5 years. But it will happen. Keep the faith and seek help. Please seek help. I see a counselor weekly and I take medication to help. But everything just feels so desolate. I know you are right, and it's all about perspective. I wish I didn't have such a difficult time with positivity. Hope seems like a harsh light at the end of a tunnel that is nothing more than a piece of cheese dangling before me as I run in this rat race that is only a cyclical torment. Thank you for your kind and helpful words. I will do my best to find hope in something. I wish I knew how to trust and value myself. I feel that may be my greatest downfall. Thank you for offering your experience to read on Reddit. I can't imagine the trauma caused by such an ordeal. It is good to see you on a road to recovery. Was there any coming to peace with what was going to happen? Was there any time to process what was going to happen? Thanks. You mean during the fall? I honestly thought I was gone. I had fully accepted death and it felt so certain that I started to feel guilt for my family and what I was leaving behind. It was likely only a minute of falling. But in that short time I had prepared for the pain and for my death. I didn't see any other outcome besides dying. I can't imagine having a minute to think while preparing for my unexpected, but most probable end. Again, it is amazing to see you sharing and helping others after what you've experienced. Thank you. A friend of mine died recently when his parachute didn't deploy. You're a very, very lucky man. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I'm glad you're okay. This comment was deleted last time because it's not a question. So how's the weather down there today? Thanks for your kind words. It's overcast and damp here. This might be a dumb question because only one of the articles worked for me and I skimmed through. But can I ask what your physical injuries were? I broke most of my spine, upper, and tore the ligaments in my neck. I also had cracked ribs and plenty of bruises. Jesus man. Do you have rods in your back or anything? I'm really glad you survived and are able to tell your story. I also really hope you're able to get over, probably poor choice in words, but words fail me sometimes, your psychological injuries too. Watching your video broke my heart a little bit because, minus the whole falling out of the sky thing, I can relate a lot to your psych issues with depression and anxiety. Lots of similarities. The moment immediately before you hit the ground, not after, but right before. Maybe 20 or 40 featuring off the ground. What was going on in that moment? Were you bracing for impact? Were you letting go of trying to control the situation? Did time slow down and you try to pick out different possible options and nuances, or were you checked out? Fight or flight responses? Or were the stimuli just too overbearing to flush? I was still freaking out and my brain was going haywire. I knew that unimaginable pain was coming and that death was going to follow. I had accepted it. I didn't have time to process anything. All I felt was guilt for what my family was witnessing and for what I was leaving behind. How are you feeling these days? I'm great. It's taken me a lot of years and a lot of mental rebuilding and sacrifice, but I can confidently say I am absolutely thriving. I'm in an amazing, supportive relationship. My career is progressing nicely and my creative outlet YouTube brings me a lot of joy. Now that I'm stable, I feel like it's time to share my story and hopefully inspire some people. I'd love to do public speaking on mental health in the future, or even write a book. Thanks so much asking. What is your advice to friends, relatives who want to try a skydive? What color was your parachute? Yellow and blue from memory. Emergency was white. I like this question. Duck how it felt. Duck how far he plummeted. Duck if he got the brain scrambles. We're talking details. What was the immediate aftermath? Hitting the ground and being taken to the hospital. Like, I could barely register the impact. I was heavily winded and couldn't breathe. We had slid into a lake and the parachute canopy was on top of my instructor and I, who I was still harnessed to. He was knocked out and unresponsive. I just remember not being able to feel most of my body and I used all my strength to try and wake up my instructor. I was shaking him and praying he would wake up because I was convinced that he was dead. That it was my fault and that I was a paraplegic. After what felt like forever, we were found by 3 golfers. We landed on a golf course, and I was lifted into the back of an ambulance while my family cried and shouted to me from the outside. All of this while in absolute agony. The pain was incredibly excruciating. On the way to the hospital I just kept crying and crying. I was totally hysterical and in shock. It was very much a mind duck that I couldn't even process. Damn. I can't see the articles or videos. Country internet lol. Did your instructor survive? Have you tried EMDR therapy? Haven't heard of it. Can you elaborate? It's a form of desensitization therapy using eye movement that's considered particularly effective for traumas. I feel I have to ask. You mentioned the PTSD and depression. I always envisioned a near-death experience to maybe leave you with a kind of renewed sense of life and purpose. How do you feel my naive assumption compares to your own personal experience? Thank you for the Ask Me Anything. I definitely do have a new sense of life. I've gained an immense level of wisdom and mental strength. It took me many years to get here, and I certainly had to sacrifice and suffer to become stable and functioning. But I'm here. My purpose is to entertain and inspire. I live life with such ambition and clarity now. I'm terrified of heights, nightmares and everything. I was actually convinced to do a tandem jump once. Nothing went wrong. But I still sometimes think about how scared I was. Got any advice, or what kind of therapy did you do? My advice is to just follow your heart. It's normal to be scared in those situations. Whenever I am near height, roller coasters, on places etc, I always think, well, the impossible has already happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if another freak accident hits me. I did a lot of heavy cognitive based therapy. It's super intense. I basically had to reformat my brain because a lot of harmless stimuli was striking me with fear. Typical PTSD. Yep, I've done a lot of CBT too. Also been given benzos. Yep, it's about learning how to think different and habit forming. I guess I just find it tough. Thanks. Did your boyfriend know about the incident before meeting you? Was there a specific food you were craving after not being able to eat solids for a while? I always want nachos or burgers and fries after the few surgeries I've had. He actually did, surprisingly. He had heard of the story when it broke, because it went bonkers with the press, and funnily enough he meets me years later. It's one of those stories that stays with you, I guess. I didn't crave anything. I was too depressed. I barely ate at all. I just gobbled a lot of drugs. So your boyfriend at the time of your jump left? Would you try again? Number. Do you have a fear of heights now? Is it still called a skydive at that point? Real question. Any neat rehab stories before depression kicked in? Just flirting hard with my physiotherapist while high on morphine and super mental. He declined. Not even the skimpy hospital robe could lure him in. Follow up. You still see the same physiotherapist occasionally? Has your flirting technique improved since then? Bro, mate. What a story. Definitely shed a wee tear watching your video. My question seems rather inconsequential now. Love the silver streak in your hair. I noticed that it wasn't there in the pictures prior to your jump and wondered if it was, firstly, natural. And if so, did it came about due to head injury? Just so I don't seem like a complete weirdo. I'm a hairdresser and often see white silver patches of hair due to scalp trauma. Thank you for sharing your experience. I wish you all the best in your recovery. Bro, certainly the most interesting question I've ever had. I bleached the spot in my hair about a year ago. Just me trying to be cool. Thanks for watching this radical video. Subscribe for the best Reddit videos straight to your feed.